What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Beta Memoirs. And today was quite an interesting day. If you weren't playing Tesla or Disney, it was pretty quiet for the most part. I was swinging a couple different other swings. I had been in Tesla. I played Tesla twice, and I also played Facebook as well, swings from last week. This week, going into this week, one thing I did not notice is that Powell will be in front of Congress and giving testimonial Wednesday and Thursday of this week. We also have bank earnings this week. We got JPM and Goldman Sachs tomorrow morning, which will get essentially the earnings really kind of kicked off here, which can really help. Also tomorrow, we do have CPI data, which is something the market seems to be waiting on. I think it's mostly on earnings from the banks. I think once we get some earnings on there, see how the banks are doing, I think after that point, we can start actually moving. The market has no weakness. One thing I also noticed too, and one thing I did discover just the other day was the fact that there is still a lot of money available through the last bill that had passed. Essentially, that's just been sitting there. I don't know if it's from leftover from business and hasn't been touched. But from what I'm hearing is that this massive amount of money that's already been approved is worth even giving us 3 more stimulus checks, I think even possibly 4. Being said, there's already a lot of money in the market, and this is why the market isn't selling back. This is why the market hardly pulls back. And when it does pull back, one thing I have noticed when it does pull back is always when the data comes out. And then when it pulls back, we typically get a overnight dip. And then it's all bought back up, and then we storm back to where we left off, and we continue to push up essentially towards the end of the week. Now, again, we do have a lot of that. We do have the Beige Book on Wednesday as well, which is kind of like a preemptive data essentially before the next Fed meeting, which is at the end of the month. We also got another Powell surprise next Tuesday as well. So there's a couple different Powell appearances over the next 3 weeks. So that's something to keep in mind. Although he keeps reiterating what he's saying, I think it's more aimed towards the data at this point. So as long as the data remains consistent with what Mr. Jerome Powell is stating, I think we should be good. But being said, all-time highs again today. SPY just not slowing down. SPY looks really good. But being said, we do have a lot of data coming out tomorrow that could sway the market a little bit. If it's any kind of dip down, it gives any kind of concern that what Powell again is stating is incorrect, you might see a bit of a correction. Again, he's going to keep sitting where he's at, and he's not going to change anything from that point. I think it would really have to be some massive changes. We could, if the economy actually gets worse, it's only more need for more stimulus. Again, which if they do have more money waiting in the wing that's already been approved, get more stimulus checks. So just more money in the market is what's going to happen. So again, these dips are going to keep getting bought. Again, we have to realize that we are in a very historic moment, right? Nobody else has lived through a pandemic. So this massive push up, which is something, I've kind of looked at like, man, we've really pushed really sharply up since the recovery in March. But being said, this is a historic time. Right, we just went through a pandemic. We had actual crash limit downs. I remember last March, all the limit downs we had like every other day last March. Now, being said, again, there's a massive amount of money that's been pumped in. We did have a bit of a pullback in March, but aside from that, we're going straight up. I mean, there's no catalyst to sell off unless China decides to do something. I think ultimately there is no reason for us to really pull back. Now, being said, I think even earnings at this point is everything's kind of leading up like March earnings, which the data in essentially any kind of guidance going forward essentially is what dropped us, because Amazon destroyed earnings, best earnings ever, and still sold off. If that's the case and going to happen here, you can almost guarantee we'll probably see another heavy pullback. I am expecting some kind of heavy pullback at the end of earnings. I think we're having a good run up at this point, but I think going into this urgent, I'm being a little bit more cautious only because of what happened then. So being said, I want to see what happens going forward from this point. QQQs still did very well, all-time highs today, and we're right back at it at close today. Again, tomorrow, depending on the data, I think we could start running. Your ones like your Amazons and your Apples, they may start stalling out a little bit here. Facebook has really been stalling pretty hard. I don't have much of a watch list tomorrow, just more going off of the leaders here, but ultimately saying I do like Facebook or Tesla for tomorrow because of the fact that it has really been held down and actually showed some massive strength. As long as it can break some key levels tomorrow, I think we could be all right. But Facebook has really been getting rejected a lot here. This 357 mark has definitely been a struggle for Facebook. Now it's ripped all the way up to this point. Now it's just essentially consolidating in between here. If we dip back down, I'll definitely be trying to buy around that 343 mark as long as it holds. Play in this range could be a possibility until earnings. Earnings is, I believe, is the end of the month, the last week of July. So we do have a couple weeks left. Being said, if it doesn't break this, we're just going to continue to play range in my mind. Your Tesla is showing some awesome strength today. It popped out. I did swing this, and then I got out at the peak and bought back in at the dip, and then rode that back up. Ultimately, it is looking strong. It really needs to break this 696 mark. Essentially, it's the expected move for the week. It's already almost there. If it does not break this, definitely Tesla will come back down. I don't know if Tesla's ever going to be able to break. It may have to take earnings for us to get back over the 700 mark at that point. If it doesn't do it within the next couple days, Tesla, I've seen some different things about the end of July, early August. So within those 2 weeks, Tesla will be trying to, we'll have earnings at that point and hopefully break us over. There was also some data that came out with Elon about talking about him against with the Solar City acquisition and all that being said about how much of a stake he had in the company. And it was against, I guess, the trial against investors, essentially. So a lot of stuff came out from there today. That's why we kind of pulled back. Also, I think we would have actually ripped at this point in the day, but that's when a lot of news started coming out about Elon. But still looking strong. Again, there's some tough resistance here that's pretty tight in here. So as long as Tesla can again break that 700, if it breaks that, I think we can retest that 780 like we did before. I tried to actually grab shares today. It didn't dip quite hard enough for me. It dipped pre-market, but then again it popped out and just ripped right out of the gate today. So we'll have to see how that works. Amazon, again, it's really high and it's really struggling. I do believe it break out of here, that 3763. It's kind of what I'm looking at. If it does break there, I do want to get back into it. I've been kind of in and out of it. So I don't really want to hold anything in the zone as opposed to, because it can get chopped up. Like I said, Facebook is still the same. Apple is, it looks like it's finally losing some steam. I did push nicely up today and then just dip. Now it's just consolidating. Could be retesting support. Everybody waiting for tomorrow. I see what the data says. If the data matches up with what Powell's saying, I might be able to actually do some running. Roblox is another I've been watching. This 85 mark, it seems to be holding well. I almost took this today. I would really love it back down to this 82 mark. That's where I got it in there previously. Again, it just depends. If we get some bad data, I think we will really pull back pretty hard. And if that's the case and we hold, I'll be looking to get back in. Ultimately, that's what I'm trying to do is build some share positions as well. I've been playing a lot of option contracts, weekly contracts, just because of I don't like where the market's at right now. It is really high in my opinion, and even though it is a very historical time, I am trying to be cautious just in case we do have some data that drops, or China comes out and says something, and then the market just drops, tanks from that point. Again, we could just continue up, and I'm trying to be prepared for that as well. So not trying to really manage my risk going forward from this point. But I do believe the fall period, we will have a massive rip going into the end of the year, but we have to make it to that point. So it's ultimately just survival mode until then. Snap is something else I've been kind of watching. A lot of stuff has just been dead. Anything that's not FANG stocks has really just been struggling. Aside from Disney actually had a pretty breakout day. I know they had some news. I didn't recall what exactly they had, but I know Disney was one of the other leaders today, had a massive rip today. I used to play Disney quite a bit, but I haven't really played it too much lately. But I mean, we'll ultimately have to see. It's just being cautious again. Every day you don't have to trade. And I try to really limit my trades unless there is a massive move. I try to capture on that. But aside from that, right now, everything is standing really high. And sometimes it's just being patient and waiting for your setup, waiting for some stuff to cool off, pull back, then build positions again. And right now, for me, building a solid position, I think I missed the Tesla dip last week when it did dip down that low. That was the one time I thought I might actually sell a little bit more, but it actually popped right back out of that zone really fast. It was hitting around that 200 mark. I think it was actually 612 or something like that. And it popped right back. This dip here at 622 mark, it popped out of there quick. I didn't have enough time to react to this, but I think that was a dip buy on Tesla. But I mean, ultimately, if it does dip back down and consolidate, if it does fail this, or if it actually breaks over this and holds over 700, I'll actually get back in shares, aiming for that 780 mark. As far as like share positions, anything else other than that, I think shares, I'll probably be looking at Roblox. And then again, staying with the industry leader, the FANG stocks, I think is extremely important right now because you don't really know what is going to happen. A lot of the value is kind of just trading sideways. Everything is pretty much trading sideways. It's just industry leader growth is what's really leading the ups and downs of the market right now. So, but remember to hit that like button if you haven't done so already, and subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.